Oh, I think we're on.
We're really big.
Oh,
I'm not sure the light is
No,
particularly
that's not-
great, is it,
well.
on there? Let's try that. Is that a little bit better?
Think so.
We're playing with the technology as well, so that's part of what this evening is about. Oh, look, so we've got 19 people on. We're just looking at, so this is all new to us, all this technology. Some of you may well have been using Zoom over the last few days and doing amazing things with it. We had a bit of an experiment last night and it went quite well. So tonight originally was just us wanting to come on and say hello and how is everybody and are you all right and are you surviving, and of course most importantly, is everybody well? Blaine's just playing around with, yeah, you're right? Okay. Okay. Just playing around with the technology. So we think what we've done is muted everybody so that people can't talk, but opened up the chat box so that you can put any questions in.
Yeah, and if you can't find it, if you're on a phone or a PC or whatever, just sort of put your finger or your mouse over the picture, get a bar at the bottom. It's got something called chat. Just click on there, and a few people are finding it by the looks of it. What we're going to say with the chat is, by all means, say hello, because we've got quite a few people on tonight. We want to sort of, once everyone said hello, keep it to questions, otherwise they get mixed up with people talking to each other and everything else.
To lose an important question, so apologies if we do lose a question. Do feel free to write it again if you want to, but I'll keep an eye on that little box too. So so first of all, I really hope that you guys are okay. I understand that many of us are in a situation of complete uncertainty, financially, emotionally, relationship-wise, you know, everything, spiritually.
Nice to meet you.
And I hope that we can get through it. I think it's going to be a long haul, so a day at a time. Secondly, there's obviously been some issues that have come up over the last few days.
Yeah, particularly the last 2 hours, it seems, to us.
Yeah. I know that we are potentially going to have on here this evening a few PDIs, because this has been put out on our PDI group as well. And of course, from a PDI point of view, we've had numerous questions from them over the last 48 hours or so, some of which we haven't had the answers to, some of which we know the answers to because regulation and legislation doesn't change just because of corona, so the regulations will stay the same, some of which we now have answers to. Then of course, following on from a bit of a hectic couple of hours we had, because I had a PDI, this is what kind of spurred it off. I had a PDI who is not one of our PDIs. She's training with a colleague of ours that we know very well and I have a lot of respect for. And has been told to cut up her badge by this trainer. And so I chose to phone this trainer and put my concerns to him. Now, I have to say that after spending 15 minutes on the phone with him expressing my concerns that he has told lots of his PDIs to cut up the badge, bless him, he went a little bit pale and did the whole, gosh, I hadn't thought about any of the things that you have said. It's a little bit late now because I've told them all to cut up their badge. And of course, more importantly, I'm a little bit cross with the DVSA who have told me that it's perfectly okay to tell our PDIs to cut up pink badges.
And we've spoken to several other companies, several big companies, and they're advising not to cut up your badge. So we're going to talk about that a bit, I think, probably to begin with, aren't we? Just worth being aware that we can only go on the information that we've got from, we spoke to DVSA today, we've talked to 3 or 4 large companies and what they're doing and why they're thinking. We can only give you our view. It's not necessarily what you should do. I would absolutely recommend that you talk to your franchise company, your trainer, your sponsor, whoever they happen to be, and get some advice from them as well. We're just going to say what we think the pitfalls could be that other people may be not thinking about, and then you can put those forward to your trainer, etc. Or if you're a trainer, you can think about those. We've never got some trainers on tonight as well.
It has to be your decision. We are not going to be sitting here advising anybody to do or not do something because it's an individual situation. The only people that we would advise is our own PDIs. And of course, this evening, we will tell you what that advice is to our PDIs, then you can make an informed decision.
Solutions.
Let's start with Steve, because Steve has put on the chat box, my part 3 final attempt was scheduled for the 24th of March, but was cancelled, which, if he's honest, he was pleased about. I need more time, but I'm wondering, have these tests been postponed till June? What's the benefit of cutting up the badge, or of course the purpose of cutting up the badge? So, first things first, in Steve's situation, and if any of you are listening and you have had a part 3 cancelled by the DVSA, regardless of whether your 2 years is going to be up, regardless of whether your pink badge is going to run out, the DVSA have your booking as a book to hold, and you will be given a new date at the point where the world goes back to normal, and you'll be able to do that. Now, some people are already getting new dates. I have to say, to a certain extent, this is a paperwork exercise, because there is nothing to say that everything is going to get back to normal again. So if you've got a date again for the middle of June, for example, there is, of course, still every possibility that it might not happen. So they're doing their best to give out new dates.
Well, they're going through the process, aren't they? So the legislation is being conducted. So therefore, for your situation, Steve, I can't quite say.
Yeah.
It means that basically, if it goes over your 2 years, because you've done the right thing and they've got an application for a test date on their desk, that you're okay.
Yeah.
You can take that date after. You can take that test after your 2 years.
Yeah.
No problem at all, because it's there.
Regardless of cutting up badges, that's a completely different issue. The legislation is there to allow you to do that. You're safe. Now, just on a side note from that, if you are a PDI, if you're a trainer with PDIs in this situation where the 2 years is going to run out, and they have not booked a part 3 or had a part 3 cancelled. So this is a PDI who's never booked a part 3 and has not had a part 3 cancelled, yet your 2 years is going to run out during this period of stay at home, potentially up until July or more. There is no ability within the rules and regulations to allow you to then book a part 3 for after your 2 years is up. So if your part 3 was booked before the 2 years is up, that is fine. Now, of course, the problem is the systems are down, so you can't book a part 3. Now, we have had confirmation today that if you fall into this category, if any of your trainees fall into this category, what they need to do is to email Paddy. If those of you that don't know that email address, send us a message. We'll tell you what that email address is, and state an intention to book a part 3 and request to have one booked to hold. What will then happen is they will be able to take your money. You will have a booking confirmed as a book to hold. It might not even have a date, but it will confirm that you had an intention of booking. You're in the system, and that is the way of getting around it. So let's take the other scenario where you don't do that. Your 2 years run out in June. In July, we all go back to normal, and you message the DVSA and you say, please, can I have a date? I couldn't book it before because of the corona issue. They'll say, too bad. So this is the only thing that they are suggesting that you do. And
this is where I'm going to say, because I know DVSA might watch this, but I think this is really bad. The DVSA should be emailing everyone with a pink badge, and maybe they will, with this information, because if you don't know, if you don't watch us, or your trainer doesn't know, or your trainer, you're with a company that doesn't give you this information, you could be in the doodah, can you, when you think you're going to be all right. They're not going to extend the 2 years. They can't do that in legislation. They can just allow you to take one attempt, and it's only one attempt after the 2 years if you've got a book to hold or a date booked. You physically booked it before the 2 years, but you can take it after, if that makes sense. So get your emails off, basically, if that's your situation. And if up to July, if it comes to June, it's still not, anything's happening, I would send it off. If you've got August, I'd work sort of 6 to 8 weeks ahead of yourself, just to make sure, because they're not in the office. Therefore, it might take a little time for people to go through their emails and what have you.
So Steve's next point is, what is the benefits of cutting up a license, or the purpose of cutting up a license? So from what we can understand, the benefits or the purpose of the DVSA saying to cut your license up, send a photograph of it to the Paddy email, is to prove that your license is not being used. Now, the benefit of that is that when the registrar comes to reissue your license, she will take that into consideration. The fact that your license hasn't been used, she'll take it into consideration when giving you back the same license. Now, that is no different to before Corona, so let's call it BC. So BC, if a PDI broke their leg and had 8 weeks with their leg in plaster, they could send their pink badge back to prove that they weren't using it, and the registrar would consider sending it back after the 8 weeks. So it's not even a definite. I would suggest there are very rare reasons why the PDI, why the registrar wouldn't. She would consider sending it back. That is no different because we now have this this issue. At the point where your pink badge is sent back, so you would have to request your pink badge back, at the point where it's sent back, it is not going to have an extension on it. So the 2 months, the 3 months that you're not using it for is not going to be added to the end of your pink badge. There is no provision in the legislation to allow the pink badge to be extended. The only thing that will happen is that it would perhaps be looked favourably on if you then requested an extension because you then haven't been using your pink badge. My issue with that is that we're not using pink badges. Boris has said you can't be out there teaching. Nobody's out there teaching unless they have a special particular need to be teaching. I cannot believe the registrar can penalise anybody who doesn't cut up a pink badge. The bottom line is if the registrar needs some kind of proof that you're not using your badge, I would suggest, and I know there are companies out there that are going to do this, that a message from your trainer or a message from your franchise saying we are not providing pupils.
Really should be.
Yeah, potentially. We're not providing pupils where our school are not permitting people to be going out. That is proof that you're not being provided with the work. You also have to remember, of course, that the pink badge is not there to allow you to work. It's there to allow you to train and, of course, to charge. So a message from your trainer saying they are not training because of this, for me, has to be just as powerful as a cut-up pink badge that goes on a photograph to the DVSA.
And that's just our take on it. We can't promise that will be the case, but we're hearing, and we're still waiting for some confirmation on some of this stuff, that is the case. But we can't promise because the registrar can do whatever she feels, really.
The second issue is that the point where your pink badge gets returned to you, so you will have to apply, when Boris says go back to work, you will have to apply for your pink badge again. You cannot work for reward unless you have a badge in your window. So you will have to apply for your pink badge to be back. At the point where the DVSA come back into the office, can you imagine the backlog that they have to deal with and the backlog that the registrar is going to have to do if she's going to consider cases to give badges back, as well as all the other stuff that is going to be building up over the next few weeks for them to deal with. You're not going to be back to work in the week that Boris tells you you're allowed to be back to work because you won't have a license. So that is the disadvantage of now cutting up a license. I don't know, perhaps the DVSA will somehow magically be able to reprint your licenses, get them all out to you again within a number of days. I doubt it. And we've had confirmation from the DVSA today that absolutely they are expecting a massive backlog of work at the point where they do go back into the offices. So that is my next concern, is that the disadvantage is that you then won't be able to go back to work at the point where we're all allowed to.
The only potential advantage is that if you cut it up, and we haven't had confirmation yet, we've asked the question, waiting for a reply, it might be that you suspend your 20 hours, potentially. But looking at the legislation, that looks like it possibly won't be the case either. So how can you train if you can't train?
Yeah. So this is the question that we've asked. If you are currently on a pink badge, you will be expected to have completed your 20 hours of training within the first 3 months of that pink badge. Let's imagine that you are 3 weeks into a pink badge at the moment, and maybe you've done 5 hours of, oh, they've got some weird thing going on in our house. Seems to be a small child's phone left in here. Let's imagine you're 3 or 4 weeks into a pink badge. You are 10-ish hours through your 20 hours of training. You've got 10 hours left to complete. What happens now if you can't get any training for another 3 months. It means that you are then out of date in terms of the 3 months that the legislation says your training needs to be done in. This is what Blaine is saying, is we don't have confirmation yet as to whether cutting up your badge will will negate your need to have that training, and that there'll be some leeway within that. My suggestion is that that's still legislation. It is written legislation that needs to happen. It's part of the deal that goes in with the pink badge. Now, there are ways around that. So, for example, I would suggest that if you are needing to gain your 20 hours, or in fact, if you're needing to gain your 40 hours of training to apply for your pink badge, there are ways that you can continue to train. Now, as long as the training that you are doing is interactive, live, and face-to-face in the presence, even if it's a virtual presence. So like now, for example, a virtual presence with an ADI who can then sign off your hours, that will count.
Can't sign off in car. So 20 hours, 5 has to be in car, 40 hours, 10 has to be in car. Haven't got a plan for that one at the moment. Unless you sit in the car with your Zoom on, I don't know. So that could be an issue. But if you've done the in-car bit and you're just waiting for some top up, then that's absolutely can happen. Yeah.
And we are going to roll out, as from tomorrow night, live interactive chats about particular subjects and topics, of which we will be able to see that you're on. We have upgraded the Zoom system that we're on, so that we have evidence of who has participated, so that we can keep that as our proof if anybody needed that backed up. We will happily sign off your ADI 21Ts or ADI 21AT forms for you, send them in the post to you if that is going to be useful for you. I would then suggest that you complete your hours training that you need to do, send that off as you would have done in the first 3 months of the DVSA. The fact that there's nobody in the office and they're not going to be processing that is by the by. You've kept your side of the deal, meaning that you've kept the regulations for your current pink badge, and that surely has to go in your favour also at the point where you're applying for a second pink.
So we'll do a proper thing on this tomorrow, but this will be open to subscribing members just purely because of the number of people and the workload it will take to fill in the forms and send them off and all that type of stuff. Also talk to your trainer, talk to your company, see if they're looking at rolling something similar out. So we know that some of them are, because we have had it confirmed, because you will get people tell you that's not allowed. We have had it confirmed several times and in writing that this is okay.
What is not okay is watching videos at home on your own in your spare time without there being an ADI present.
It's better to ask questions like Steve has. When we do ours, we're probably going to enable people's video, and because we did one yesterday where people could talk as well and we could see them, so it's more interactive today because we've got quite a lot on. We've gone for the text and we want to try the text out as well to see how that works. So as long as there's some interaction and you can ask questions, you can say, "Oh, just pause. What did you say there? What did you mean? Blah blah blah." Then that's absolutely fine. From our point of view, we're recording these as well, so we would then put them on our site in the membership area, which people would watch again. They couldn't sign that off, but if you were there live, you could watch it again. Oh, I forgot what they said there. What did they say there? And so unlike an in-car thing, once it's gone, it's recorded. Yeah. It can always be there. But you couldn't, if you came back to it later and if you came back to it for the first time and watched it not live, you can't sign that off. And that's why we have to have a system of knowing who's been on, how long they've been on, when they went off, when they came back, all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Just to go back to the pink license issue, if you have a pink license that is going to expire fairly soon, I would still suggest that, whether it's cut up or not, because it shouldn't make any difference, that you apply for your second badge. Now, you need to be doing that exactly as the legislation suggests that you need to do it now. That application needs to be into the DVSA before your current badge expires, whether it's cut up or not, before the current badge expires. So if it arrives to the DVSA after that time, it will not be considered to be granted a second. Yeah, they need 10 working days. However, it just needs to be in before your first badge expires. I strongly suggest that if you have a pink badge that is going to expire during this period of time, that you do exactly that. So 2 weeks before it expires, you apply for a second pink badge. Now we know, again, of course, it's not going to be processed because there isn't anyone in the office, but you've kept your side of the deal. That also means that if you've not cut up your badge at the point where Boris says go back to work, your current expired badge goes back into your window, uncut up, back into your window, and you are legally allowed to work because you're under appeal. Now, just because the DVSA have not been able to provide the service to process that, that's not your problem. The DVSA have admitted that's not your problem, but you've kept to your side, so legally you can continue under your appeal. The issue, of course, is you cut up your pink badge, you can't stick it back in the window and carry on working. But whether it's cut up or not at this point, so if you're sitting here thinking, oh my gosh, I've cut my badge up, still appeal for it if it's going to run out. Okay, so that's that point. Shall we just have a little look at some of the questions that are coming in and see what needs to be covered? Okay, so Amanda, my first part 3 is June, cancelled. I'm not on a pink, giving lessons for free, and I expire in December. So your 2 years is up in December. I might be okay to get a new date before then, and you say I'm okay to take the test after the 2 years expires. But does that mean I will potentially only be able to take one attempt at this exam? Yes.
I think you'll get something in before December. My gut feelings you would, and then you'll be able to get one after that. You might have to travel somewhere to get it, but we know the DVSA are going to work really hard to try and get rid of the backlog and try to sort people out. Their intentions are good, so hopefully they will sort that out for you. Yeah. But if we're still sat here in November, go book to hold. But then you've already got one. You had one booked and you've cancelled. Yeah. So you're in the system. You'll probably get a date through. We've got PDIs getting dates every day at the moment, so they're going through. Someone's sat at home going through them amongst playing with the kids and stuff. So you will get a date at some point, and it probably will be middle to end of July. You just have to wait and see what happens with that, really.
Hi guys, sorry if asked has just got on. If no part 3 booked yet in 3 months' time is looming for it to be booked to get a date before 6 months is up, any thoughts? Yes, it has been covered before, but just to reiterate, you will need to request a book to hold so that you get your request in for a part 3 date, because if your 2 years is coming up, they will not be able to give you a test if you ask for it after your 2 years has been up. So I'm just reading through this bit about the 3 months' time is looming for it to be booked. Right, okay, so if you're on a pink badge and the 3 months is looming, yeah, absolutely, get on and request that you have a part 3 booked, so that you get into the system, you have a book to hold, and you go from there. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
What is the address to send the ADI 2180 forms to? Can they be emailed? They can be emailed, and I would suggest that they are emailed. Nothing wrong with sticking them in the post either. The address is should be on the form itself. So I've got the wrong bit of form in front of me. Should be on the form itself.
Someone's out there that's got a form to hand or can quickly get one up on Google, that would be good.
Or if you can't find it, Becky, you send me a message, I'll find it for you, but it should be on the form itself. How can we get access to tomorrow's meeting? Okay, Andrew, so what we were talking about for those of you that just come on is that we will be providing online training that we would happily sign off towards your 40 hours or your 20 hours, because we have proof that you're going to be on. It's an interactive section that you can be doing, so it can go towards your training. This will be for people who subscribe to Driving Instructor TV. So at the moment we have to do it like that because we have to be seen to be providing the best that we can for the people who are already subscribing. Nothing wrong with you subscribing tonight. You can do that if you're not already subscribing. It's not fair for the people that have been
paying us to then give free to other people.
Yeah. But you're more than welcome.
And we're limited to 100 people on here, and we do have 500 members. So
yeah, and we will be putting that out. Are we putting that out after this? The link. So follow us, Andrew, and you
on the PDI group. We'll put it there first, probably.
Yeah.
And if you are a member of the site here and your part 3 section, there'll be a bit live chats and signing off. It'll be in there as well within the next hour or two, I should think.
My license runs out in August, and I've only been teaching for 5 weeks. If we're not allowed to teach before this time, But we still have to pay for a second license, do
Yeah.
you know? Yep, our understanding is that you will
No
have to pay
refund.
for the second license, and that, yeah, there won't be any refunds.
So if you paid, you got your license through yesterday, or let's say a week ago, and hopefully not, we're off for 6 months, you won't get any money back. It's just the way it is, I'm afraid. They're not going to. They're told us they're not going to refund. So I don't think they can. That's the bottom line. I think because it's all tied up in legislation and law, it's not a case of them saying, well, it's not really their fault, we'll just give them the money back. It just doesn't work like that, unfortunately.
The only time you can get your money back is if your application has gone through and your pink badge has not yet arrived.
Yeah.
You can terminate that.
So don't want it anymore.
They will do that.
But you've got to think about your 6 months of your training if you're going to do that, because your 6 months of training won't roll across. So if you started your 40 hours 6 months ago, you're better off taking the badge and then applying for a second one later on, because you'll have to do your training again.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if we've covered that.
No, we haven't. Good point. Go on then. So reiterate that again so people can
So
understand.
basically, the rule when you apply for a pink, that you must have done your 40 hours training within that 6 months before you want the pink, basically, isn't it?
Mhm.
Before you apply. So when we've got a guy at the moment that says if he applies in 3 weeks' time, or 3 weeks' time, some of his hours would have been more than 6 months. But those hours cannot count. And we've had that confirmed today,
Mhm.
that they won't count. So if you look back at your diary when your first part 3 session was, and it's coming up to 6 months, you're better off applying, even though you only might use 2 months of it, because you'll have to do the training again anyway, which might cost you more money. So you'd have to sit down and do the maths, I suppose. So that's where it's all good. We are doing this resource. This isn't about selling what we're going to do, but we are trying to fill in those gaps a little bit by doing this online training, because we're not doing it for people to do the whole 30 hours online. It's filling in some gaps where people are 6 hours short, or they're going to drop 6 hours from their 6 months, they need another 6 hours. It's to fill in those spaces really, and to give people, obviously, hopefully very good, useful information.
Gaz, I took my part 1 back in December 2019, had my part 2 booked for April, we scheduled for July now. Will the 2 years stand to finish everything? And do I need to pass my part 2 to do the 30 or 40 hours training for applying for the pink? Okay, a couple of questions there, Gaz. The 2 years is set in stone. When the 2 years is up, so that will be December 2021, that's up. There's no extension for that. In terms of starting your 40 hours training for a current pink badge, you can absolutely do that now. Yep, no issues with that. Clearly, you need to work it out so that you're not doing too many hours before the 6 months that you're going to apply for the pink badge. So you need to be aware of that. And of course, you have to pass to part 2 to be able to.
It could be 4 months of the
apply
part
for
2, 5 months of part 2 happens, who knows? So
Yeah.
have to be a little bit aware of that, absolutely.
So let's say you have a part 2 scheduled for July, and let's fingers crossed hope that that goes ahead, and presume it's going to. I would suggest it would be probably reasonable for you to be starting your 40 hours, of which you can do virtually, like we're suggesting you do. You can log on with us, for example, starting tomorrow evening, and get some of those hours signed off. I would suggest that, you know, start counting your hours,
Yeah,
but
not
continuously doing it. If you're not paying for training that is virtually being taken, let's say, for example, you counted tomorrow's session that you did with us as lesson 1 or hour 1 of your training. If it got further down the line that lesson 1 hour wasn't appropriate because it was out of the 6 months, you're just going to continue the virtual training anyway, so it's all going to be clocking up. So no rules about when you can start doing that.
And for a certain degree, because you'd have to be a subscribing member, but most people that were doing it are anyway, and it's an extra thing. So, and it's going to be cheaper than a one-to-one training, but we wouldn't absolutely say you don't need it, because there's nothing like actually practicing the theory. So we can do the theory with you guys, and what's involved, and what you should be saying, and why you should be saying, how you should be saying it, and etc., etc. But there's nothing like the practice. But the practice isn't available at the moment, so it's better than nothing, isn't it? We feel hopefully we can do it justice as well.
So Paula says that I'm in tribunal, failed 2 attempts, did my 5 extra hours training, completed, went on and book final attempt, and it won't let me. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. Book to hold. You message the PADI email. You say that you're currently in tribunal, that you want to book to hold because you want to know, you want to express desire to have a test booked. please could the DVSA contact you to potentially take the money from you so that you can get a test booked, so in case your 2 years overlap. So Paula, I'm not sure when your 2 years is out of date. That would be quite useful to know, but certainly that's the message we're getting from Paddy, is that they would ask you to do that.
I don't think his name is Paddy on. We're trying to work out what it stood for. If anyone knows what it stands for, keep it to yourself. So we can just, we're just having fun trying to work it out.
Okay, so the message is, how many PDIs will be able to join in the training videos? I've just completed my 20 hours and have emailed that off, but I would still like to get involved. Good for you, Alan. I wouldn't want to stop someone more in need not being able to join in. We have upgraded the system so that we can take 100.
We can upgrade it to more if we find there's a huge risk, but we want it to be interactive, and even 100's pushing it, we feel. But it's a suck it and see. It's to see how it works and stuff. And you guys know that we're always available after these things anyway on social medias and phones and everything else. So we feel that we are accessible. But the answer to the question is 100. We've put this out today. We've got 35 on. So I wouldn't, and I would come along. It's going to be a first come first serve when we launch it later or tomorrow morning. If you get in there first, if we find that we get messages from a lot of people that have been left out, because we do have more members than that, then we will really look at it and maybe do more, so more people can come on. If you come on first one, you can't come on the second one, that sort of stuff, because we have the systems now to be able to make sure people get their turn, if that makes sense. But because it's new, give it a go, and we're just going to have to adapt as we go along. But we'll make sure everyone gets an opportunity. If you're a subscriber member, we're not going to block you out because you're paying. So we'll find a way of making it work for sure.
Elizabeth says that her 2 years expires in early May, and she had a third attempt booked for the 26th of May. Yeah, you're fine. You're in the system, Elizabeth. Your attempt will be carried over at the point where the DVSA are able to start the system flowing again. So you're all right. Thanks guys for answering. My part 3 has been changed to the 1st of July. My 2 years expires on the 4th of July. If I fail on the 1st, will my fail be on the system before the 4th to allow me to book my 3rd attempt before I expire? What I would suggest that you do, Becky, is that you ring them up. They will be able to at least take a note of the fact that you're wanting to book another attempt. They may well say the system won't necessarily allow them to do that, but I think in that situation they will do their best to get you another attempt.
It should be got booked to hold.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they muck around with that, let us know and we'll see what we can do, because they should play the game there.
Laura, my little magic fairy who lurks in the background and answers all the things that need answering, she has put up the address for you to be sending off forms to. Thank you, Laura.
I would say try and do it by email if you can, because we know the DVSA staff are accessing their emails. So if you email, you'll be able to get in the system right, because they're not going in the office. So if you can email your forms, your requests, etc., then I would definitely consider doing that first. You might want to send another copy just so you've backed yourself up. That wouldn't be a bad idea, would it? Just, this is to confirm, blah, blah, blah. So you've got 2 copies.
Okay, I know we are competing against the ADI and JC, who are also doing a live chat now. Graham has come on, said the ADI and JC has recommended PDIs return their pink badges. No, the DVSA is saying do not return your pink badges. There is nobody in the office. Don't return them. If you want to cut them up. Send us a photograph to Paddy email to prove that you're not being used. But of course, this is the dilemma that we're telling you to potentially have a think about. Don't return them in the post. The DVSA do not want them returned in the post.
Because that would be easy, because they could just send them back to you, but the DVSA, they don't want that to happen. And maybe, NJC, talk to the DVSA as well. So maybe they've got different information, but that's not what we've been told. That would make sense in theory, because they could just post it back to you, but that's not what we're being told.
Yeah, well done, Andrew. Re-enrolling back onto the videos. You're on our system. You'll be very welcome to join us for any of the training. 2 years is up in November, Paula. Okay, you're all right. I think I wouldn't be overly concerned now. Sit back, hold fire, do what it is that you need to be doing. But fingers crossed that it will all be sorted a long time before then. I'm not a sole subscriber to Drive Instructor TV, but have access through my franchise. Will I still be allowed access to the training tomorrow?
Yeah.
Absolutely. You are very welcome, Julie.
Yeah, there's a few companies that
Yeah.
let people on. If you're on the system, you're on the system. If you can access the part-free videos, you can come on because the
Yeah.
links will be on there.
And I've told numerous trainers who I know that do use the videos that we are very happy to do that training for them and sign it off. Some great questions being answered. Thanks. You're welcome, Andrew. Can you just confirm how to book to hold a date so that I can be in the system, please? Yep, you need to email, and the email address is Paddy. I'm going to get this wrong if I don't have it in front of me. Hold fire, because I'm going to quote it for you right.
We don't want people think they've got through and find
Yeah.
they haven't, because we're being duped, aren't we?
Okay, so the email address to request a book to hold and make it clear to them that otherwise your 2 years might be up and you want to get a test in before that is Paddy. So that's PADI at dvsa.gov.uk. So that's Paddy, PADI at dvsa.gov.uk. Thanks for going about the 2 years. Oh,
Someone's
Laura, of course, our little fairy.
Yeah.
Not
supposed to just, go to a little fairy.
It's a compliment.
Oh, I thought it probably was.
Okay, it looks like we've got to the bottom of those messages. Have we covered everything that we felt like we needed to cover?
I think so. I think other things will come up but we're still waiting for confirmation on a few bits and bobs, aren't we? And we don't want to give wrong information. So I think we have at the moment what I can think of.
I think just to confirm that a couple of points, that if you have cut up your license and you request your new license to be sent to you, your new license that will be sent to you will be the same license again with the same expiry date as it currently is. So they are not going to add potentially 2 months onto your current license just because you've cut it up. It doesn't work like that. There are no provisions to extend a license. There is no such thing as extending a license. So for example, if you got to the end of a license and you wanted to apply for a second, that's not applying for an extension, it's applying for a second license. The only reason you are then able to continue to work when you're in that appeal process or while they're considering it is because that process allows you to do it, not an extension. The process allows to do it, to the point that if the DVSA find in your favour and give you a second pink, or even if it goes weeks and weeks and weeks down the line and finally tribunal say that you are allowed a second pink, your second pink starts on the date that your old one stopped. So it could be that you're on 4 months worth of appeal and you'll still only have 8 weeks left on it. So to be a little bit aware of this false pretense of thinking you're getting something that you're not. It's not going to work like that. Yes, just to confirm, Laura, the 2 years qualifying period is not being extended. It can't be. Legislation doesn't allow for it. The 2 years is written in law. It's a little bit like your pupils who had theory tests. They now can't get a practical test. Their theory is going to run out. They can't give an extension to anything like that. It's not going to happen. We've had this confirmed both in writing and in a telephone conversation with DBS today. It is out of their hands.
Saying that, all things can change. Like I'm sure you guys are aware, the MOT has been extended. There's a 6-month window now. They could do that. And whether the government see PDIs and ADIs, people trained to be driving instructors, as important of other things, probably not at the moment. No disrespect to PDIs. But that might happen. If it goes on and on and on, maybe that will be the case. But at the moment, unless there's a change literally by the government, it's not going to change. And I don't think we're near the top of the list at the moment. Because this is the same on lots and lots of things. We talked to the DVSA and they were saying about CPD for lorry drivers. Some of them are coming unstuck because they were due to do it last week and they can't do it now. They can't drive their bus or their lorry and all that sort of stuff. So, and there's what, 400,000 lorry drivers. So, you know, there's lots of problems all the way around. Really, it's not just us guys.
Just to confirm, We're not giving anybody any advice about what you do. It is purely up to you whether you want to cut up your license or whether you want to keep your license. That we can't advise you to do that. What I do know that there are lots of other companies out there who are suggesting that we look at that on an individual basis, not a blanket policy the DVSA is saying. So I'm really pleased to hear there are other trainers that have taken on board some of the issues. One of the other issues that I also need to just point out is that you need to be a little bit aware that if you have a pink badge and that's part of your insurance, your car insurance, and you cut up your pink badge and then in your
send it back,
which you shouldn't be doing. And at the point where you go off to Tesco's, because there's absolutely nothing in your fridge and you've been putting it off and putting it off and putting it off, and you prang your car in the car park and you have to claim off your insurance, and your insurance says, let's see your pink badge. How does it look when you're showing them a cut up pink badge? I don't know. It's one of those million chance of something happening.
well, you have to change your insurance, and that's come up on our threads over the last few days. I don't know if you've seen them, but people saying they've informed their insurance company they're no longer on a pink because they cut it up or whatever, and they've had to change their insurance to private use, which is cheaper in fact, so you might get a bit of a refund, but you have to change it because your insurance is no longer you're no longer got the license for what your insurance is for, if that makes sense. And it sounds a bit silly, but I do notice it's the case. So you would have to change your insurance, and you may get some refunds. I know some people have saved a couple £100, but you do have to inform your insurance company, is what I would say. And I'd be tempted to probably inform them or talk to them before you cut up the pink badge. What do you think? Find out how that's going to work.
I'm not even going to go there.
It is a nightmare, absolutely. But what we're saying is check, because there are going to be insurance issues if you don't have your pink badge, because that's how you got your insurance.
Yeah. Not that cutting up your pink badge suspends your pink badge. It does not suspend your pink badge. It merely gives the registrar some kind of proof that you're not using it. Now,
Send it back, does it suspend it?
No. The only thing that can suspend it is the registrar officially suspending it for some kind of legal reason.
So I wonder what the advice is to send it in. All I can think is the advice is send it in because it'd be sent back to you straight away, which makes complete sense. But the DVSA are telling us they can't cope with that.
No, DVSA are saying don't send it.
Unless that's changed this afternoon, maybe the DVSA have got more
that's not the
information.
information that we have had this evening.
So that's interesting. So maybe contact them yourselves and check yourselves, because we know they are taking individual messages. Of course, if 5,000 of you do it this evening, they might be quite busy tomorrow. But something else we can say.
Anyway, I hope that's useful.
I think so. Hopefully, again, not probably answers for some of you guys, but all we can say is what we have told. But you can contact the DVSA on the PADI email address, and they will advise you. But clearly, they are reasonably busy at the moment.
Just a last couple of questions coming in. Paula, you're not on a pink badge. Do you need to change your insurance? No. You're absolutely fine. Your insurance remains the same. No problems with that. And Julie's saying, how do we access tomorrow's Zoom meeting? We'll put that out there. Julie's going to be out in the PDI group within an hour or so of us getting off here. I'll put it on my own wall as well for those people who want that, and on Driving Through to TV.
Yeah, I've got a section ready to go live on there. So we'll put a link up to that. So if you're a subscribed member, you'll be able to read how to do it and how it all works. And if you're not, you won't subscribe, unfortunately.
It's really
It's
lovely
something
to have
really
so many of you on, and I'm really pleased that you guys feel that you can come and listen to us, and that we have some kind of kudos, and that you're happy to take some of the things that we're saying. That means a lot. And Graham saying, about us being supportive, we are absolutely here. We've not gone anywhere. We're both healthy. We are on the end of the phone, we're on the end of PMs, we're on the end of emails or text messages. If we don't know the answers, we will absolutely do our best to find out the answers, and we have a direct line in that we can do that if that's what you would like. But otherwise, we're absolutely here to support you and to do the absolute best, particularly for your PDIs. We don't care who you're training with. It really doesn't matter to us. We are here to support you, and of course to allow you to continue to train your whether you want to count the hours or not. It's just important that at the point where Boris says, off you go, you hit the ground running.
And that's worth pointing out, actually. You can have more than one trainer. So if you're trained, you've done X number of hours with your trainer in car, etc. There's no problem with us filling in a second form and sending it off. They're very used to that. Sometimes people have 3 or 4 different trainers for whatever reason, don't they? And we fill in forms. So if Lou does a workshop, that counts, but she's live there most of the time. And she fills in forms for people there. So don't worry if you send off 2 or 3 lots of forms out. The DVSA aren't worried about that. It doesn't have to be on one form. It can't be on one form, in fact, if it's more than one trainer.
John's on this evening because Samaritans are closed.
Oh, right,
So
okay.
he's you're welcome, John. You have access to us. We're on speed dial. You're welcome anytime. Okay, we'll say good night. We've got children who are desperate to get into the sitting room. We've got signs on our doors that say "Meeting in progress. Go away."
One sneaked in just now to grab that phone.
So bless them. We need to get them given
Like an army.
to the rest of the house. And those of you who would like to join us tomorrow evening for a bit of training, you will be very welcome.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
No night.
Never find this bit.